I've been wanting to talk about this. I'm a little late to the party. It happened on Monday, but obviously some other things happened with Magic Johnson and Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade and the NBA playoffs. So a little late getting to this, but definitely wanted to make sure that I didn't miss an opportunity to hit on it. Look, I initially reported on the XFL, like most, when they made their announcement a little over a year ago that they were coming back for 2020. And it took a lot of people by surprise, although Vince McMahon had alluded to this, right, during the 30 for 30. This was the XFL, right, which I thought was a phenomenal documentary, by the way. I think most of those are actually pretty good. But then again, I love sports and sports history. So, but one of the things that I talked about when I initially reported, to me, was the level of competition, right? What is the actual play going to look like? You know, what's the star power going to look like? What is Vince McMahon's and the XFL's true competition in terms of being able to recruit? I didn't think it was the NFL. I would have revered it as the CFL. And obviously, I still stand by that given what happened with the AAF, right? The Alliance of American Football didn't even finish out the season. So I stand by that because your competition for recruiting and getting that star caliber of athlete is still going to be not the NFL, because you don't want to make a move against them yet, right? You've got to really establish that brand first. So to me, it's a CFL, an established brand. Guys know that they can go there and play football. You look at Doug Flutie, Warren Moon, and a host of others that have gone there, been successful, and ended up coming back to the NFL. So I look at the CFL as being my competition. And so what do you do other than just finding that talent, right? You have to make the game palatable. And by palatable, obviously, I mean you have to make it enjoyable for everybody, you know, because when you're watching a game of football, it's about the feel, it's about the look, it's about the pageantry, it's about all those things that surround football. The storylines are always interesting, right? You look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers last year in the NFL, and what he accomplished in the second half of opening day against the Chicago Bears, basically on one leg, and led his team for a comeback, right? So that's an intriguing storyline. And the storylines often include what should the rules of football look like. The NFL has been the subject of ridicule now for a long time for not enhancing the overtime rules, making kind of weird rules, right? So, like, for instance, in the NFL, we all know, or at least most of us know, that the overtime rules are if you get the ball first and you score a touchdown, the game is automatically over. And then, of course, it's still a 15-minute period. And then if you don't score, but let's say you score a field goal, then the other team would then have a chance to go down and score. If they don't, the game is over. The team that scored the field goal won. If they score a touchdown, then the game is over. If they tie it, then the game continues, right? So it's not necessarily sudden death. And I thought that the old rules that the NFL went by, while not very entertaining to me in a lot of ways, were at least far more clear. And they were easier to understand. And I think the XFL, with a lot of these new rules, is trying to kind of piggyback on that. Like I said before with Vince McMahon, he was piggybacking on a lot of things that a lot of people were griping about the NFL doing wrong that he is clearly trying to change. And one of them is the overtime rules. So what they're looking at for overtime rules, and something that they're working on during their spring leagues right now, is how overtime is going to be done. And what they're attempting to do is both teams will get 5 tries at a 2-point conversion, and basically whoever converts the most wins. Pretty cut and dry. And by the way, their overtime or their 2-point conversion would be from the 5-yard line, right? So whenever you score, which is and leads right into my next point, which is something that they're looking at, is how you score the ball, right? So what they're looking at doing is when you score a touchdown, you have 3 options instead of 2, right? So the NFL, for instance, has made it to where you can either kick an extra point from the 15-yard line, or you can go for the 2-point conversion on the 1.5-yard line, trying to entice people to go for 2 a little more often. And so what the XFL has done to kind of tie in with their overtime rules is, it may not make sense to people if I had just said that first, which is why I went with the overtime rules first. And that is, If you score a touchdown, you can kick the extra point from the 2-yard line. You can go for 2 from the 5-yard line, or you can even attempt a 3-point play from the 10-yard line. And I honestly think that that is very compelling. I really like that idea a lot, and I'll tell you why. Let's say there's 3 minutes to go in the football game, and you're down 16-7. You're down by 9. You've got 3 minutes left. You can literally drive down the field and score a touchdown with X amount of time left, let's call it 10 seconds, and go for the 3-pointer from the 10-yard line and tie the game and put it in overtime. Whereas in the NFL and even at the collegiate level, which is what I love most, is college football, I think a lot of people turn that game off because they go, man, there's 3 minutes left. They've got the ball on their own 15-yard line. They're going to have to score a touchdown. They got to make the extra point. Then they've got to do an onside kick, and get the ball back and then try and go down and score. Whereas in this instance, they can simply just go, you know what? I can score a touchdown. I can take my time on this drive, get a 3-point try, tie the game, put it in overtime. Or in select cases, they could even go all the way and say, you know what? I'm going to try and win this thing. So let's say the score is 17-10. Or I'm sorry, 18-10. Or, something like that, 17-9. Let's call it 17-9, right? So now you can drive down the field and go, I'm going to try and win this thing. I'm down by 8. I can go for 2 and tie, or I can go for 3 and take the lead and go up 18-17, right? I think that is an actual adjustment to the game that I like. Now, here's the hard thing that I'm having a difficult time perceiving with all this, and that is the camera angles that they're doing. I think some of it is very cool. I think on a lot of levels, most of us want to know what it looks like when a quarterback is back there, what it looks like when a running back is taking the handoff and what he's seeing. Because kind of like a video game, right? When we're playing Madden, you can angle it to where you can see certain aspects of the field. So when a defender's coming from 15 yards the other direction and make an adjustment on that, right? And one of the things that we always talk about in sports is a guy's field awareness, perception, what's going on around him, vision, all those things. Now we get to see what that running back is seeing. So he doesn't see that 15-yard guy coming, and we go, how'd you get tackled? How could you not have foreseen that? Now we're actually looking at what he's looking at. However, they showed a camera angle where the ball was caught, and it was an over-the-top catch, and it just kind of looked like you're almost looking like on a world globe or dome. And I was just kind of like, I don't know about that. I'm a little iffy on that one. So we'll see. Some of it I like, some of it I don't. I do love these overtime rules already. I think that is very entertaining, kind of collegiate style in a way. And then I love the idea of the 3-point conversion, the 2-point conversion, and the 1-point conversion, right? Because it's old school traditional. From the 2-yard line, kick the extra point, easy. But in in-game situations, all that could really change. And it's going to, alter your play calling, how you view the game as it goes along. You don't feel safe if you're up 16-7 now. You're not trying to run the football and run out the clock anymore necessarily. You're really trying to get that first down, and you don't want to give the team another opportunity to get the ball back and score. So you're going to have to really think ahead in terms of your play calling, which I think is going to make the game a lot more interesting. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to this. I think that these rule changes are phenomenal. Vince McMahon and company clearly looking to do something a little bit different. Different a lot of times can be good. I've always said the game of football doesn't need changed a whole lot. But the old saying is that you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Well, for me, I've always added, you may not reinvent the wheel, but you can put a shiny new rim on it. The wheel does what it needs to do, gets you where you needs to go. It all rotates the same. But the rim that you put on it can look a lot better, right? And so I think that's what the XFL is doing here. I don't think that they're reinventing how the game is played. It's like Vince McMahon said, they're reimagining it by putting that shiny new rim on there. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot more to get to as this develops. They've already nailed some marquee guys. Obviously, the biggest name, probably Bob Stoops, coming out of Oklahoma, which I have my own. I'll get into that some other time. I'm not the biggest Bob Stoops fan, although I do use his quote 100% of the time about he had this quote. He said, thing about winning is people think it's easy, and it's not. I love that quote. Phenomenal quote from Bob Stoops. So, that being said, I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. The Full Court Press and our subsidiaries can be found on Facebook and Instagram. That is the Full Court Press, football, basketball, and MMA. And when you share this post, don't forget to use the hashtag Don't You Dare Touch That Dial. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.